Morning everybody, and welcome back to Cody Builds. On today's episode, we're going to be having a lot of fun getting the front suspension installed on this truck frame. Let me take you in here for a quick look at the QA1 system. This is everything you're going to get with the QA1 conversion system for a 73 to 79 Ford F100 or F150. Taking a look here, we've got McGaughey's 2-inch drop spindles. QA1 partners with them for those. I was not aware of that until I opened the package. We've got our control arms, uppers and lowers. QA1 makes this so simple for us, guys. Look, they got dummy stickers on here. Everything's labeled. They take the guesswork out of this whole kit. They come with great instructions. Everything is packaged nicely. It's just a really nice kit. So we got the control arm there. They're adjusters for tie rod ends. We've got all of our tie rod ends and control arm mounting hardware there. This is a brace for our two cross members there. A couple other braces. The steering rack, the coilovers, the coilover hardware, the tools to adjust the coilovers, and then we've got our upper and lower cross members here, as well as a hardware kit. So if you're intimidated by this kit, don't be. It's really straightforward and simple, and we're gonna take all this and put it in this today. So let's hang out, let's get to work, and let's get the suspension kit installed. So before we get too involved in installing this kit, one of the first things I have to do is I have to drill out the holes in this patch where we patched over where this cross member used to be. This part was pretty rusty. If you saw that back in my previous episodes, we went ahead, cut this out, and fit some new steel in here. Now, when I did the original patch template, I did mark out all the holes, I center punched them, and then I went ahead and center punched the bracket as well. So it's not going to show up on camera, but I've got locating marks for each of these holes. Now, I'm pretty sure we're going to be using at least these outside holes. I'm going to double check in the directions. And I will re-drill all these holes out that we're going to use. And then the directions say to drill these holes and the back locating holes out to a 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to make sure that the holes on each side of the frame are drilled out to the appropriate size. And once all that drilling is done, we'll be able to start bolting up the cross member. Okay, so the first thing we need to do here is we need to get our cross member braces put in. So the way these are, it comes with 2 brackets. There's not a left and a right. They're the same, identical. So it doesn't matter which side goes in which. The only thing to note is there's a hole in the bottom, and that's going to go through the bottom frame rail. So the way these are oriented are with the 3 holes on the driver's side pointing backwards towards the back 3 holes in that cross member, like this. And then the inverse is going to be true on the front side. So these are going to sit opposite one another in the frame here. Okay, and our holes line up. That's great. So the holes we just drilled line up nicely. Okay, I'm going to be doing this install by myself today. So I'm just taking some extra precautions here, putting down some moving blankets, trying not to scratch everything up. No idea how this is going to go, but we'll see. I'm thinking I should be able to do it by myself. So what we need to do is mount this lower bracket into using the 2 lower mounting holes and the 2 lower side holes. So there's 4 on each side. The other important thing to note in the directions is there are 2 different sizes of 1/2 inch washers in this kit. So if you look at these, there's 2 different diameter washers here. You can see that, right? The smaller size are used anywhere that you're touching a QA1 part. The larger size are used anywhere we're touching the frame. So there's fewer of these, a lot more of these. So just keep that in mind when you start installing the system, because it doesn't call it out in each individual instruction line. It's just a line in the instructions before you start installing things. So now this first one might be a little bit tricky because we're trying to go through the frame and 2 brackets. So I'll see if I can't just get this started. Boy, this is going to be tricky with one set of hands. You know what I think I'm going to do is get the... I think I'm going to set the jack up to give me an extra assist here. Yeah, let's do that. That's going to make life a lot easier for me. Okay, the other thing I noticed right off the bat, this system does tell you to brace the frame, which you can see that's what this is before you cut the cross member out. I can already tell, because those front holes are kind of large, they have a little bit of play. I can already see that the cross member is slightly narrower. Our frame is spread just a little bit. No big deal. It's very easy to compress back, but it might make things a little tricky to get slid into place the first time. And we're just going to strap around the front of this and just draw this in just a hair. It's not much, but it is, when you're already fighting the cross member by yourself, there's no point in not using a little bit of a mechanical advantage. Make it easier on yourself when you can. Okay, that's probably all it's going to take. It wasn't much. I'm going to bring this on up. Just got a little bit of tension on that at the moment, not much. We're going to slide this lower bolt up and through. Not that. These are all nice nylock nuts, so once we torque these down, they really shouldn't go anywhere. Okay, get that one started. And then we're going to put this bottom outside frame hole. So that's going to come inward. So let's switch out. You want the head on the outside of the frame, the nut on the inside of the frame. Give our cross member from the other side. Line that up. Just run our bolt up through there. So this, when you're bolting through the crossmember braces, you're going through the bottom of the crossmember, through the frame, and then to the crossmember brace. Those are what we're talking about with the washers. That's QA1 parts sandwiching the frame, so you're using the small bolts for all of those. I'm having trouble getting alignment on this lower hole here. Okay, so the problem is I'm not getting this bracket all the way up tight to the frame. And one of the things I didn't show on camera that you're supposed to do, the frame has a turn down on both sides, here and here, and you bend that up. And I did that with a crescent wrench before I painted the frame because I didn't want a bunch of nicks in the frame when I did that. This side we're pretty close. It's just, if you look under here, we're actually hitting right here. So I need to bend this up just a hair. And then on this side, it's literally right here at the cross member. You can see where this turns down. So unfortunately, I think what I'm going to have to do is lower this cross member and get what I'm going to use. You could use a pipe wrench. I'm going to just use a crescent wrench with a rag in it at this point. We're going to probably crack the paint, but I'll come back and touch everything up once everything's installed anyways, because I got a few touch-ups to do in the back. And we'll bend this portion of the frame up, so that'll allow us to bring this up higher so we can run our bolts through here. You can see they're just not quite aligned through here. So do we need to do that real quick? Boy, this one's going to be tough because it's right where the corner of the cross member was welded into the frame. So I'm going through 2 chunks of metal here. Oh, I felt it move. I think we came up a little bit there. it's moving. Slowly but surely. Ugh. I think I got a little piece of weld under there I might have to grind. That's what it's feeling like. Okay, I do see a little piece of metal sticking down from the frame about where I cut the cross member. I'm gonna get in there with the grinder real quick and just level that out. This is all gonna fall underneath this cross member anyways. So I'd rather get this tight to the frame, get a good install, than worry about paint at the moment. Yeah, it wasn't much there, so I'm not entirely sure that that's the issue, but that's all I can see at the moment. Now that we got the bracket dropped down, let's give this another go, see if we can't bend this up just a hair more. And we may just end up having to open the holes up on the frame slightly if we can't get it any closer. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to bend that too much more. Yeah, I don't want to give any, drill a bunch of oversized holes for this cross member so I don't have any slop in it, really. Okay, that's pretty darn good. But I got a major problem at these back mounts. I might just have to tighten them down is what it comes down to. They're both off, and it's not an issue of, I think it's just an issue of general fit to the frame here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put in my front and back holes here. I'm gonna tighten these down. I'm gonna tighten these down, and then I'm gonna see if I can get the side brackets in. And if I can't, then I will have to open the frame up. Because if it's tight through here and it's not fitting there, then that's just the holes being slightly misaligned from the kit to what I'm trying to do here. So let's get this jack out of the way now. Yeah, I can already see everything lines up now. So for now, I'm just going to tighten those back two in. That'll allow me to line up all the other bolts I need to line up here. Yeah, there we go. That was the one I was really struggling with there. We got that through now. Okay. Beautiful. Okay. Now the only one is that I don't have yet lined up is this guy here, and I will say this is where my patch went in, so I could be off ever so slightly here from where my holes are drilled. So I'm gonna just use the die grinder just to open these holes up just enough to get our hardware in. First I'm gonna make sure this is tight all the way down. Okay, that's very tight. Everything's tight there. We're tight to the bottom of the frame there. And I think we're just not quite able. Yeah, this is very close. All right, I'm just gonna run a die grinder in these holes and try and open those up just ever so slightly. Beautiful. Okay. All right, I can now get my first few bolts in. Okay, so we're just putting in, at this moment, we're just doing, like I said, the 2 bottom ones and then the 2 on the underside of the frame. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna put in, I've got the back of this bracket lined up pretty well back here on one side, so I'm gonna go ahead and install that bolt. Actually, I think I need to just open the hole up just ever so slightly. Okay, not much. Side right in. So I'm going to line that up. Now I'm noticing I'm off pretty significantly on the back side here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a ratchet strap around these and see if I can't draw this arm in just a hair to meet the frame. And if I can't, no big deal, I'll just open that frame hole up a hair. So let's take this off. Now that we got the front aligned. Our braces here is still holding that in place, so no worries there. Now, if this requires a lot of force to do this, I'm not gonna leave it there because I don't want to screw up any of the suspension alignment stuff here, so I more or less just want to see if I can get this close. Very close. Okay, so now I am going to just open this hole up just a hair because I'm pretty dang close. Put that out, don't want that getting in my way. Very, very close. Okay, beautiful. All right. Okay. Now, the last thing I need to do for this lower rail at the moment, this lower cross member, is I need to, there's 2 more mounting holes right up under here that do not have an existing hole in the frame. So I need to go ahead and drill those out and run my hardware through on those. And then we've got the lower cradle mounted for the moment. Okay, to this point, I've got all the lower hardware in on the lower cross member on both sides. So every hole in the bottom has hardware in it, is tightened down. The one thing I will probably say you might want to do is where you have these braces, the cross member braces on this side and on that side, you may want to leave those a little bit loose because I'm noticing it's going to be 1,000 times easier to align this upper cross member if you've got a little bit of play in that center, that brace bracket. Otherwise, the holes might be slightly off and you're going to be fighting getting bolts in and out. So I didn't record drilling these holes. You just have to drill out these 2 holes here. This one here and this one here. That's the front of this back attachment. No big deal. You see me drill 1,000 holes last week. So that's that. Next up here, we've got the upper cross member. The only modification we have to make for this is we've got to notch the frame. See if you can see in here. There's a plate on this inner on this upper cross member. You can see it here. The frame has to be notched to clear this bracket. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna align this bracket as best I can. It looks like it's gonna fall on the front side of these braces. So anyways, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to get this lined up where I want it, mark the frame where it needs to be notched, and then I'll get in here with the die grinder in a bit and just notch this back just a little bit to clear this bracket. It doesn't look like it's gonna have to be much, maybe 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch notch in the frame on both sides. And then once I've got that notched out, we'll slide this thing down and we'll start getting it bolted in place. All right, confession time, telling yourself time. I made a big mistake here. So I misread the directions and I thought these engine tabs are supposed to go to the front. They are supposed to go to the back. So this whole cross member needs to do a 180. And that should have been obvious to me before. So when I didn't see, one of the big dead giveaways was my plates weren't aligning here, but I thought, oh, all my bolt holes line up. Well, it's just because this is offset slightly. So had I been paying attention to that, we wouldn't be in this position. But everything, thankfully, I think everything is still, all the holes I drilled, everything's still going to line up. I just need to unbolt this, flip it around 180, get it in the right orientation, and then make sure that I get everything tightened back down. Now, the way I figured this out was I was putting this anodized brace in, and look how far it's off. And then I thought, well, there's no way it can be off because all the bolt holes align. I didn't have to drill anything except for these upper holes, which the back hole lined up the way it was supposed to. So I was just kind of racking my brain there for a minute, and I went back and reread the directions, and sure enough, I didn't read them right. So, you know, it happens, no big deal. We'll get it flipped around. It's just taking a little bit extra time is all. But I think it's important to show you guys mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. The important thing is we can fix them, we can make it right, and we can keep going with the install. So I'm gonna undo everything I just did, flip this all back around, and then get us back on track. All right, did a little shop reset here, got a bunch of tools picked up, just kind of got everything straightened up again. Man, I don't know, the older I get, the more I feel like organization is a bigger deal for me. Like it used to be, when I was working on derby cars, I'd have every friggin' tool that I own would be out on the floor. Every cord would be wrapped around itself and the air hose, and you'd be tripping over stuff, and I'd get so frustrated, but I would never stop and clean up. And now it's like if the tools aren't organized, if things aren't picked up, it bothers me so bad I have to stop and clean up. So we got to a point here where we fixed our mistake. We've got the cross member back, the upper cross member installed. There is a torque spec for all of the 1/2 inch and 3/8 bolts. It's 75 foot-pounds for the 1/2 inch bolts, 31 for the 3/8, and then 17 foot-pounds on that little red anodized brace that goes on the bottom of the cross members. So I went ahead, I checked all those. I mean, I ran them down with the impact, so they were mostly all tight anyways. But they're all now definitely torqued to spec and a little beyond. And now I think we're ready to start hanging the actual suspension arms and the coilovers onto the frame. So let me give you a look in here and what this looks like. It's looking really good. We got the lower and upper cross member in place, everything bolted in. Now, one thing I do want to point out, just kind of going back to my specific situation, we had that patch right in here, and that patch fell, basically, it fell right here. So all 6 of these bolts run through that patch. You got 4 bolts on the top side, as well as 3 in the bottom of the cradle right under here. So I'm not really at all concerned about this spot where we welded it and having weakened that or anything like that. There's a boatload of hardware through this thing. Now it's also enveloped by the cradle here on either side, and then you've got the 2 cradles bolted together and braced together at the bottom. So we've added a bunch of strength back into this thing. Even, you know, the bottom cradle to hold the bottom arms runs all the way back, so you've kind of triangulated the frame right in there. This frame is going to be so much more rigid between the cross member and the front cab mount than what it was. So it just worked out really well that almost all of our patches, like we talked about last week with the back patches, the big ones fell right underneath the braces. So it worked out really well for us and for this specific situation. So yeah, so next up, I've got to assemble all of the heim joints onto the ends of the control arms. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'll probably time lapse some of that. You guys don't really need to see me do that, and maybe I'll do it off camera. Once I got all that stuff together, we'll come back, we'll start hanging the control arms, the upper control arms on, and then we'll go from there. All right, I'm gonna wrap up for today. I just ran out of time. I'll give you a look at where we're at here. I got the upper and lower control arms on. Next step would be assembling the coilovers, then putting the spindle on, then putting the rack in, and lastly getting the rack hooked up to the spindles. So we're not that far off. Had I not screwed up with that cross member in the first place, I probably would have finished today. But for you guys, this will be about 5 seconds. For me, it's gonna be about a week and a half. So I'm actually gonna be out of town for the next week with some buddies down on the Bourbon Trail. So gonna relax a little bit. And then when I get back, we're gonna finish up this suspension for you. That's right now. See, I told you it was only gonna be a couple seconds. I'm already back. But for me, it's been a week and a half. And I got to enjoy some time away from the shop. I got to watch my nephew win a championship with his hockey club. And I got to spend some time with some buddies down on the Bourbon Trail down in Kentucky. So all in all, it was a good time away from the shop. But I've been itching to get back to this project, and I've been itching to finish up this QA1 system. So that's what we're gonna do tonight. The first things we're gonna do here is get the coilovers assembled. It's gonna be very similar to how the coilovers were assembled on the rear package. Once those are together, we'll get those installed. We'll get things set up to get the spindles on, and that's pretty much gonna be it. Now, I think I said I've got sway bar kits for the front and back. Those are not, they do not come standard with the front and rear suspension system. Those are add-ons. So I'm gonna do those in a separate video. I'll try and do the fronts and the rears together in their own video. Those are gonna be pretty straightforward, quick little videos, I hope. There's not much to them. Drill a couple holes, bolt everything up. So, so if you don't see that on this video, that's gonna be coming up very shortly. Now I do think there may be a couple parts and pieces I may have to install in advance, just because they share some of the bolt holes. But that's okay, we'll do that. And then I'll go over all that when I do the actual install of the sway bar. So let's get to work, let's get this suspension kit finished up. The way that these coilovers get installed is with the adjustments up, facing up. It's a little counterintuitive because the stickers and everything are upside down then, but that's the way they get installed. The adjustment for rebound and compression are at top, as well as your spring ride height adjustment. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this installed. It just uses a 1/2-inch bolt here, a couple washers and a couple spacers. So let's see if I can't juggle all this hardware here. All right, fellas, here it is. It looks pretty dang good. We got the steering rack in. We've got our A-arm suspension and coilovers in. As I said, we're still gonna have to make adjustments to this as we go, but this is as far as we're gonna be able to get for now. Now, a couple things to note. I've already told you the sway bar does not come with the front kit. That's an add-on option. Additionally, no hubs with the front spindle setup. So you're using your brake of choosing. And for us, we went with a slightly larger than 12-inch Willwood disc brakes up front and back. So I think they're like the 12.25-inch discs. The fronts are 6-piston stud mount, and the back are 4-piston stud mount. So when we install that Willwood brake system, we'll install the hubs, and at that point, this will be a rolling chassis. So that's going to be coming up very shortly here. We'll get the hubs and brakes installed on the front and the same thing in the back. Now, the back's going to require a little bit of adjustment on the axles due to the kit that we have. There's some nuances there that I want to talk about when we get to that, but it's going to require a little bit of modification to both the Willwood system and our axles. So we will talk about that on the episode when we do install the brake system. Next up, we're going to be putting in the front and back sway bars. And then after that, we'll be doing the brakes. So I'm not quite sure if I'm going to do those in one video or split it up into a couple. I may try to do that all in one shot, but it just going to depends. We're going to have to see what the time commitment looks like for that. So that's going to do it for this episode. Man, we're making great progress here. This truck is looking great. I hope you guys think it's looking great. I'm so excited. The unfortunate part here, progress is going to slow down a little bit. So we've spent a good amount of the budget already on this rolling chassis. So, you know, we got to slow down the spending a little bit for a little while here, save some money back up so we can get the drivetrain built up. The next step, though, once this thing is back into a rolling chassis, we're going to get it out of here, get it out of the way, and I'm going to get the bed in here. We're going to start the body work on the bed first, and I'm going to shorten the bed up 16 inches. There's so much rust to cut out of it. So that's going to be coming up in short order as well. I've got two other surprises coming. One, we're going to be doing a revival, and I hope you guys are going to see that here in about 2 or 3 weeks. So a little surprise revival. You're not going to want to miss it. It's a rare vehicle. It's one that my father owns, and it's one that has not been on the road at least for over a decade. We're going to try and sort out how long it's been off the road. He recently acquired this truck, but it's been off the road for a significant amount of time from before he even purchased it. So we're going to figure that out. You're going to see that. You're going to see that vehicle. You're going to see us get it, hopefully get it up and running and driving. And that's going to be another project vehicle for the channel. In addition to that, I've got another project vehicle, a friend of mine. We're gonna be at his shop here in a couple nights, and we're gonna be introducing the project. It's a big project, but it's gonna be more on the budget side of things as well. And that car is gonna be something a little different than what you've seen on this channel. It's gonna require a lot of repair work. There's probably gonna be, to start, we're gonna be doing some really basic engine things that you will see. I'm trying to keep it a little bit of a surprise. But so stick around, stay tuned, keep coming back. And remember, your cars, your trucks, they're not gonna build themselves. So get out in the shop, keep building, and I'll see you on next week's episode of Cody Builds.